Hey, this is Meghann Conter, founder of The Dames. And if you want to learn the 6- and 7-figure science to success, significantly increase your revenue, and learn how to successfully build professional relationships, you should be listening to the Sell Without Selling podcast with my good friend, Stacey O'Byrne.
If you're ready to get out of your own way to follow the 7-figure science of success, then welcome to Sell Without Selling. Tune in with renowned international speaker Stacey O'Byrne as she shows you how mastering relationships, achieving the proper mindset, and attaining the necessary motivation will catapult you away from failure and onto your journey to greatness. And now, here is your host, Stacey O'Byrne.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Sell Without Selling. I'm your host, Stacey O'Byrne, and I believe that learning the art and the science of how to sell without selling is the only way to achieve high 6- and 7-figure success. Today, I'm speaking with a new and dear up-and-coming friend, Meghann Conter. Meghann uses her power to connect, elevate, entertain, and celebrate extraordinary women as the CEO of The Dames, a global community designed specifically for women running and leading 6- and 7-figure businesses. Meghann believes that anything can be accomplished through fearless collaboration, laughter, fun, and love. That's something that we both hold dear to our hearts. Once a burnt out, over-networked CEO, she is now the global ultra connector for women who thrive in the space where self-worth and net worth align. We have a lot to talk about on that one. Learn more about The Dames and Meghann at www.thedames.co. I'm really excited for you to hear our conversation. And always remember, I believe that learning the art and the science of how to sell without selling is the only way to achieve high 6- and 7-figure success. Really quick, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, sales professional, and you haven't hit the level of success that you've wanted or needed, or if you're stuck and needing a pivot in your business, in your success, or you just want more, and you understand the importance of having a coach to help identify the blind spots, increase accountability, and help with success strategies to take you, your business, your income, your life, and your success to the next level. If this sounds like something for you, then head over to pivotpointadvantage.com/I want success. That's pivotpointadvantage.com/I want success. Let's get a quick call on the calendar, see if we're a great fit for each other. Okay, let's do it. Meghann, welcome to the show.
Stacey, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited, and I think we're gonna have some fun things to talk about today.
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. And let's just warn our listeners now. I have had laryngitis for about 2 weeks, sinus infection, bronchitis, just all the really fun stuff when the universe and your body say, I think it's time to slow down a little bit. So I'm kind of like anticipating if I sound like my voice is cracking, I promise you I'm not going through puberty. So, Meghann, you and I have had multiple conversations offline, and I'm really excited for our listeners to hear you, get to know you, and just really hear our conversation. We have a lot in common. We've done a lot of things in the same direction and built businesses very similarly from the perspective of word of mouth marketing, right? So I'd really like for our listeners to get to know Meghann, because being an entrepreneur, building a business, it's not always easy. It's definitely worth it, just not always easy. So how did you get into this crazy world of entrepreneurism?
I came out of corporate, and it was a really short 6-year stint in corporate where if I actually felt at that time in 2008 that if I had to keep going down that road, I may not make it for very long because it was not a fit. Mm-hmm. So I actually was let go from my last job in 2008, the very end, because it was the beginning of the housing market crisis. And so I met several entrepreneurs. They were picking my brain about marketing their different businesses. And they said, you know what, you should start your own company. And I said, wait, what? What exactly does that entail? Because all of the learning that I had done and all of the planning that I had done was to grow up in the corporate world, up the corporate ladder. And, of course, it didn't take very much to convince me to do something else because I was very unhappy in that world. So it was sort of like the stars and the planets and everything aligned to bring me to the right place at the right time with the right people. And I had some incredible help from some entrepreneurs early on who basically helped me start everything from the ground up. And I morphed and changed and evolved for a long time. I think I had 5 different business names within the first 6 years of business. And, I started out in the weeds, really focused on social media implementation and management and maintenance in 2009, when nobody knew what the heck social media was for business, let alone how it would, help them grow their small business. But I learned a lot in that time about myself and about business, and really morphed and changed up into a branding and marketing strategist, where I stayed for many years. In coincidence, at the same time, I started my spiritual journey, and I also started networking. So it was about, 2012, and I'm networking everywhere. Actually, it was even earlier than that. 2010, I'm networking everywhere, inefficiently, haphazardly, just going out and doing what I thought networking was, which was, trying to sell people into your programs, right? Trying to sell people into the next thing and being sold to the whole time. And finding a lot of lackluster results from that, but also still doing it because I am a raging extrovert and I loved connecting with other people. But I really, it took me quite some time to figure out how to package my services as a coach, as a marketing coach. And it took me years to figure out, like, I remember just bashing up against the ceiling of, how am I ever going to scale this coaching business when it's just me? I'm the talent, I'm the intuitive who helps coach these people. How am I going to do this? And I tried for a while to find other coaches to work for me and create a system that they would follow in a process. And it just didn't work for me. And it never felt like it was the right fit. What did feel right was that I would start leading other people's networking organizations, and I loved it. I found finding new ways of connecting people and having fun doing so, and helping them have fun, and really kind of changing the way that networking was being done was what I was passionate about. All the while I was still running my marketing business and was extremely good at and loved working with my clients, because I'd go deep and work with them to transform their business for 6 months to 12 months and beyond. So I was kind of this on dual tracks, right? I'm growing my marketing business, but I'm finding this flair and this love for networking. And so in 2014, I actually joined a mastermind group, and really discovered at that time that I needed to stop networking the way that I had been and really just give myself a break. And I kind of went inside and I said, all right, what is it about this way that I've been doing things that's so inefficient? I'm having a hard time following up. I'm having a hard time, yes, I can sell tickets to my social media workshops early on, and I can sell tickets to these other different workshops and things that I'm doing, but it's hard to build really quality relationships when the first thing you start out with is, hey, do you want to buy my coaching? Or, hey, do you want to buy my services? It just doesn't start out a relationship very well when I'm like,
right,
here's my card, buy my stuff.
Yeah.
So during that time in 2014, I like to say that I created the Networking Witness Protection Program, and I put myself in it. Just took a break. I said, I've got to figure something out that's new. So during that time, I re-engineered and refigured and reconfigured, because I had had a lot of success with power partners. And it was something that I devised based on some learnings with my mastermind group, and really finding the people who are already in contact and already in trusted relationships with my ideal clients. And I was already in trusted relationships with theirs. But they were people who were either non-competing or who were also in the marketing field and had different specialties, or somehow could be in collaboration with me as opposed to competition, which I never felt, it never resonated with me to compete with anyone anyways.
Right.
So I felt this natural gravitation toward collaboration. So throughout all that time, I had also experienced a lot of the negative aspects of networking before I joined my own networking witness protection program. And so I came out and I said, I want to create something different. I want to create a network that's specifically for an environment, specifically for the needs, wants, and desires of women growing their 6 and 7 figure businesses. I want it to be fun. So I created a reverse mullet approach, is what I call it. That's the fun in the front and then the impact in the back, the inspiration.
I like that.
So it's really about like, hey, when we come in from our day-to-day lives as entrepreneurs, we're usually stressed out, overwhelmed, or we've been in full-blown business mode for days. And we've got to like, it's really hard to connect from that space. It's very robotic. And it's very much, you tend to enter into what I would call the negative aspects of old sales, of just like, God, I've got to get the deal, right? I've got to make the deal, because you're just coming in with that desperation. And so if we completely transform that, and if we say you're coming to network to find your power partners, and you're coming in with this laughter first so that you can let your hair down, you can become more comfortable, that immediately creates an easier bond to connect. Mm-hmm. And then we can start building relationships and rapport when we understand what a power partner is. And so basically that is what I created and came out into the world with in 2015 with Denver Dames. And we kept growing and growing here. In 2017, we started building and creating the online platform that would allow us to have global membership. And then 2018 started adding chapters outside of Denver. 2019 and 2020, we grew just immensely within our virtual chapter and our local chapter markets. And that is the vision going forward, is chapters in major and second tier markets where women growing their 6 and 7 figure businesses and in director plus roles can come together with the tools, the resources, and the fun to really get connected on a deep level and to be resourceful for and collaborative with each other, supporting each other as we go through all the personal and professional growth that is business ownership. Yeah. And that career growth too. Yeah. So that brings us to today.
So the journey, has it always been easy?
Not at all. Not at all. And I think what the biggest realization was for me is that I was running both my businesses. And in 2018 is when actually the Dames was formed as its own entity, because it had just been a product under my marketing business for years. And that's when I really realized it has its own life, and it's the business that I really want to grow ultimately. It's the business that I want to lead with. So I had a split identity for a couple of years there, where I had this belief that I needed to keep doing my marketing coaching because A, it fulfilled me in a lot of deep ways, the work that I did with my clients, but also B, it was just like, well, I can't even remember what I believed, to be honest, because it was so old and outdated. Right. But it took 2018 and 19 to really decide I didn't have to work my fingers to the bone. I didn't have to hustle and grind, and I could let go of my marketing business. And so I did. I folded it to the Dames as a product in the Dames back at the end of 2019, with the knowing that it wasn't going to last for very much longer. And then March of 2020 happened, and all of the marketing clients disappeared, and there was the Dames ready to grow even more and ready to have my full attention. But it caused a lot of years of my marketing business, especially a lot of years of strife and struggle and trying to follow other people's models, which wasn't working for me, not listening to my intuition, just like, I'll just follow the books. I'll follow the way that the dudes have been saying to do it for years, even though my feminine intuition and creative self was like, no, stop this. Right. So as soon as I shut the hell up my mind and started listening to my intuition and listening to it no matter what it said, that's when things got a heck of a lot easier, and when I was able to pour myself and my genius into the Dames fully.
I love that. So, you've dropped a bunch of golden nuggets that I kind of want to pick up and present back to the listeners. First and foremost, networking is a phenomenal way to grow your business. For those of you that have been listening to the show for a really long time, you're very aware that I built 2 7-figure businesses and six-figure businesses 100% from networking. It works, right? I mean, I made the decision late 2019 to start moving into creating a digital presence, like having a website, having a social media group and page. Those were things that I never did. I never had to, right? And I had just made the decision, okay, it's probably time to step into the millennium. and I did. Around October 2019, we started positioning ourselves digitally. I had made the decision to start working on the concept of the podcast, and ironically picked March 2020 to launch the podcast back in October 2019. Who would have thunk, right? And one of the things that Meghann brings up, so many entrepreneurs show up and throw up. They show up and spray and pray. And I remember being at a speaking engagement. It was at a very, very large chamber of commerce. There were over 200 people in the room. It was the morning breakfast meeting, and I had an hour segment. And I'm a glorified, die-hard, to the core introvert. So we are polar opposites in our strategies and our approaches in a room. My responsibility is to go hold up a wall. That's my responsibility. And, for me, it's a beautiful filter because two people will always approach me: a net vomiter and a master networker. The net vomiter will spray and pray all over me, and it instantly goes in one filter. And the master networker will come and talk with me, get to know me, and then introduce me to people. And that's how I work a room, is from well-connected people introducing me to people. And I'll always talk to leadership in the room because they'll introduce me to people. And then I really get connected to the real networkers, right? So I really, as a speaker, like to observe people. Yeah. And I was observing everybody just spraying, praying, showing up and throwing up. And I get on stage and I said, you know what? I said, I think the very first thing we need to do is talk about the networking disconnect. Because the networking disconnect looks like this. And I said, I need you guys to really play full out and be honest right now. And I pulled out my wallet. And I said, how many people here have their wallet today? So the whole room raised their hand. I go, cool. Now, how many people here came here having to, needing to, wanting to make a sale today? Like your credit card payments due, your car payments due, rent or mortgages due. You have to make a sale. Raise your hand. The entire room raised their hand, including the board of directors. And I said, all right, everybody keep your hand up. Look around. And everybody started mumbling, the buzz got really loud and people were laughing and everything. And I go, okay, now everybody put your hand down. Whose hand's up? I said, now everybody who has your wallet out, how many people here came here wanting to, needing to, having to whip out money, your Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover, because you have to buy something today. You're going to buy something today. How many buyers are in the room? Raise your hand. I said, everybody look around. Nobody had their room. Nobody in the room had their hands raised. And everyone went, and I said, this is the net disconnect. I said, so many people come here for the wrong reasons. Like, I'm just going to call you all out, all of you. Right. I said, this isn't about building relationships in this room. This is about connecting with people to see if there's synergy so that the relationship can be built outside of this room. Because relationships don't happen in 30 seconds. They don't happen in a minute. They don't happen in a commercial. They don't happen in a presentation. And they sure don't happen in an hour. I said, relationships happen over time. I'm not going to meet you and have your baby today. Sorry. I'm not going to meet you or marry you today. Sorry. And, that I remember being bombarded afterwards. And what people don't realize is it's the mindset that gets presented, the need for the instant gratification, the itty bitty shitty committee kicking off showing up with need and fear and FOMO. And no, business doesn't happen with spraying and praying. Your networking protection program. So I talk a lot about the Entrepreneurial Witness Protection Program. And the Entrepreneurial Witness Protection Program is the digital platforms. You know, it's people kid themselves when they think they're working when they're online, you know, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. That's great. It should be a strategy. However, in my humble opinion, you shouldn't be doing it yourself. Now, I also know that some people are CEOs, chief everything officers, you know, from the janitor all the way up to the principal. I get that. And you also need to remember that these are businesses. These are entities, and they are very good and very smart at what they do. And they're not going to let you get exposed for free.
Yep.
That's why they change their algorithms on a continual basis. Now, that doesn't mean that if you play smart organically and everything, that'll eventually happen. It's not going to happen overnight.
Nope. And neither is building a high quality relationship that yields lots of collaboration, lots of cross-referring business, and lots of babies, if you want to go back to that metaphor.
Yeah, stop showing up in people's messengers or inboxes, vomiting all over them, right?
Yeah, it's worthless. And I even the other day was having a conversation with someone who had approached me in that way. And I normally don't take the time to do this, but I just said, I'm curious as to what your results are from this strategy, because you didn't pique my interest one bit. In fact, you turned me off completely, and you seem like a pretty nice guy. So I'm wondering how many people you're doing that with, and what your odds are that you're playing here, because they don't seem to be very good odds.
No, I mean, look, what makes sales a numbers game is your approach. Because sales isn't a numbers game. Sales is a science. It's the science of rapport, relationship, and being able to step into people's map of reality and speak into their listening. I mean, I train the science, I know the science, I am the science. Yep. And so many people try to do it every other way. And if you try to do anything, you do nothing.
That's for sure.
On that note, I had a woman back in August of 2022 now, right? I had a woman back in August of 2021 inbox me a direct sales pitch. And I get hit up a lot for direct sales. And my my response was very honest and transparent. You know, I work with a lot of direct sales companies and a lot of direct sales teams. I have a lot of non-compete contracts. I'm not allowed to be in any opportunity. I can be a consumer. I just can't be a distributor. And so I started it out with, I'm really curious as to what about my profile made you think that I would be interested. And I appreciate you thinking I would be interested. And I went into my legal disclaimer. So then on August 25th, she attempted to argue with me about whether or not it was going to be a breach of contract. And I'm like, unless you've got JD behind your initials, I'm going to lean towards the word of my attorney. Haven't heard a peep from her since. Yesterday, I got a message. I looked into it with my legal department. This isn't a discrepancy or a conflict on your contracts. And I go, really? You've never even seen my contracts, so how do you know? And then she started arguing with me again. And I'm like, I'm really curious. What are your results with this? Because if anything, you're really close to being blocked by me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So check yourself. It all starts with us, right? Yeah. So you heard Meghann say that she was simultaneously growing two businesses. And, you know, they both were experiencing a level of success. However, she was frayed and ragged. Do you know the hardest decision that exists? And one, it's probably one of the most valuable, is allowing yourself to follow your passion. Now, I'm not saying passion always profits. I'm not saying that. Right. Making the choice to walk away from a financially healthy business so that you can step into empowering a financially healthy opportunity. That takes a solid mindset to say, yep, this is 10, 20 grand a month that I'm just going to say bye to. Yep. Because I trust that if I focus, I'll make double, triple that with what I love to do. Yes.
100%. And I think that I see so many entrepreneurs who, not always, not unanimously, but many of them are stuck in the chasm between, let's say, 90K and 250K. They're stuck at that level because they have 4 or 5 or 3 or 2 or however many different ideas or different things that they're running with at any given time. And you have to realize at some point as an entrepreneur that you are one person. And most of the time when I see these people, it's one person. They may have a virtual assistant helping them with some of it, but you cannot bifurcate yourself 5 times or 4 times or 3 times and do any of it effectively. You're running around with limited resources, limited attention, limited everything. And I knew that my marketing business was serving its purpose. And I knew that purpose deep down, I knew that purpose and that timeline was ending. I just had to get to that point where I had grown myself personally and built up my own mindset and my own awareness to know that my intuition is the number one thing I get to trust. And if I try to let someone else outside of me or some other part of me override that, it ends up not good. It ends up not good. So I really got to understand that, but it took me years of building up my intuition and building up that trust for myself and my own belief in myself to say, I trust that this is the right move for me to make. And I think that my heart hurts for a lot of people who don't realize that and who think that they have to keep going with this bifurcated focus.
So, that's a really good point. I want to touch on 2 things to go a little deeper. First and foremost, we as humans only have 100% to give. Only have 100% to give. Cracks me up when somebody says, I give 1,000% every day. I know. Yeah. It's like you have 100% to give. Now, look at your life. We've got kids, spouses, friends, family, relationships, health, wealth. We have our business. We have our spirituality. So you've got this pie, and depending on the major areas of your life, the pie is going to be cut in 6 or 11 pieces or somewhere in between, right? And let's just say that your pie's cut in 6 pieces. Well, you can't give 100% to every area. You get to make a decision. This area needs 50%. This area needs 10%. This area needs whatever. And then your schedule's got to match accordingly. And then how you schedule it, that's how you give 100% of yourself during that allotted time. Yeah. This split focus, the diluted focus, my favorite word is multitasking. Right. You can't theoretically multitask. Your brain can store a lot of information visually. It's just not capable of diluting its focus like that.
You mean to tell me you're not writing your next blog post right now as we speak?
No. And that is a great point, because when converting over to online marketing like you did, these people need to hear, when you're on that platform, when you're in that meeting, be 100% to that meeting. Because look, they may not know if you're writing your blog post. They may not know if you're sending emails. However, you could miss that one life-changing thing. You really could.
The one thing that could create the bond between you and that other person. Yeah. That if you're what's the word, lollygagging or all over the place, you're not paying attention to what's actually right in front of you.
Yeah. And one other thing I want to address on this 100% is our unconscious mind cannot achieve work-life balance. It can't do it. Work-life balance only exists if it's 50-50. because your unconscious mind knows 49% and 51% is imbalanced. I'm sure if you could achieve 49-51, you'd be happy. However, if you're continuing to pursue work-life balance, your unconscious mind will be dissatisfied if it's not 50-50. So I invite you to really start pursuing work-life harmony, because it's finding that harmony in all the major areas of your life so that they can all work with each other. And the way that happens is with clarity, right?
And that clarity. So speaking of having these different areas of focus, it makes it that much harder to have clarity. And it makes it that much harder for the person on the receiving end of a new relationship to have clarity as well. If you are, for instance, meeting someone brand new, like if I'm meeting you and you're starting to tell me about 7 different things that you're into and that you do in your business and all these different directions, how much do you think of that I'm going to retain? Very little.
Yeah.
But if you come in and you say, here's my focus, here's what my mission is in the world, here's what my vision is for my work, here is where I am headed, then I can say, great, here's where I can help you to achieve that with more ease and more flow and more fun. Same thing if I come to you and I have one focus and that's where my attention and intention goes, then you can help me come alongside and help me grow that as well.
Yep.
As opposed to if I've got all of these different areas and you're like, man, I don't even know where to start with you.
Yeah. You know, it's really important for people to understand the avatar that you serve, the problems you solve. We don't need to know how you solve them. How you solve them is your expertise. We're sitting here in our expertise, and you're speaking Greek if you even attempt to go that route. Just tell us who your most successful prospective future client is, what they look like, what to listen for, what to look for, what they say, how they think, where we find them, and then tell us the problems they have and what they look like and sound like. We'll be able to find people. Our brain processes information in pictures. So if the better you can describe it, the easier it is for us to find it.
Yeah, that clarity is key to everything. And that right in here in this little conversation we're having is the concept of power partners.
Yeah.
You notice that Stacey and I are not sitting here saying, Stacey, I want you to work with me. I want you to be my client. And you're not saying that to me. We are building a rapport to say, who are your best clients that I could be sending your way, Stacey, for your coaching programs?
Yeah.
And you're saying, Meghann, tell me about your business and tell me about who the best clients, who the best candidates are for your organization. And let's collaborate and see how we can help each other in some way, whether that's masterminding those challenges that we're facing in our businesses, or we're celebrating each other and what we're accomplished, what we're accomplishing, or it's, hey, I've got 5 people I want to introduce you to this week. Whatever the case may be, that's exactly what Stacey and I are doing here. And the more clarity that you can have about yourself and your business, and exactly what Stacey's talking about, the problems that you're solving, the problems to look for and the solutions that you're going to provide, that means that I can be out looking for her and I can be part of her sales team that she never even has to pay or train or anything.
Yeah, the only thing it costs you is reciprocation. It's really all it costs you. And it's a beautiful thing.
The reciprocation doesn't even have to be a tit for tat reciprocation.
No.
Because I may not have direct end clients for you, but I may have a resource to someone who has a connection to someone who does. Yeah. Or I may be able to, make you a connection to this podcast company that could, who knows? Yeah. You're open to that and you're really listening to the other person's needs and you're in it to serve that person first. Yep. And both people are doing that, reciprocity happens without effort.
Yeah, I'd like to get into the dilution for a second. You were talking about diluted focus, and you service a 6-figure and 7-figure female community. And I was doing some research on statistics. Now, the research I was doing was on the coaching industry. I would venture to guess, though, this mirrors pretty much across the board entrepreneurism, period. So what I had found is less than 3% of the coaches in the world make over $100,000 a year. So less than 3% make it to 6 figures. For that 3%, less than 1% of them ever hit 7 figures.
Yep. And it's women-owned businesses that hit 7 figures is 2% of women-owned businesses.
Wow, that's crazy. These are crazy statistics. And I think a lot of it rolls up to very easily summarized. 1, you can't be everything to everybody. 2, you can't do it all. You are an expert in your field, and it's best if you hire the best to do the rest. And 3, what's between your ears is going to determine how far you can take you, your business, and your prospective client. Because success is really easy. It's 90% mindset, 10% action. Yep. And, if you don't have what's between your ears squared away, then how can you build those solid relationships? How can you add value to someone? Because you're always showing up what's in it for me, which is a very analog station.
And it's never always, you get to a point where it's squared away and then there's more. So it's not like just, hey, I hit the top of the mountain and I'm there. My mindset is exactly where it needs to be. I'm never going to have to change another thing in my life. Not true. The inside game, constant, continuous game. And you get to decide if you're going to choose to grow more or if you're going to choose not to. That's your choice.
Well, universal law is this: what you feed grows and what you starve dies. And there's always movement in the world. You're either growing or dying. You're never standing still.
Some people are upset by that. And I'm like, well, of course, there's liminal space. There's liminal space that has to occur in between these different transformation states and the changes that are happening. But if you decide that you're going to, drag your feet and say, I'm not going to change, well, you're fighting gravity, basically, is what we're saying. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember, hearing when I first started out as a professional, I remember hearing, it was Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn had told me, I personally got to mentor with him, so I was really blessed. He had told me, always invest 30% back into yourself. Whatever your gross sales are, throw 30% back in. And I have to tell you, I have done that every year, and it pays me back tenfold.
Absolutely. My thing that I say, my saying is that we can only grow as much professionally as we are willing to grow personally. So whatever point you decide that you've stopped growing as spiritually, mentally, emotionally, whatever, then that's it. You can't grow anymore professionally. Your career is not going to grow. Your business is not going to grow. It's going to remain at a plateau level.
Yeah. Reality is, if you're part of the problem, you'll never be part of the solution. So you have to insert yourself in environments that are going to grow you, stretch you, challenge you, make you uncomfortable, insert you with people who know more than you, can do more than you. The rule of thumb is, if you're the smartest person in the room,
you're in the wrong room.
Pretty much. If you're the richest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right?
So speaking of the diluted focus, when you were talking about the dames focusing on, women running 6- and 7-figure businesses, know that, for the listeners, know that that's the target market. The ideal client or the avatar is a woman who's running a $750,000 business. That's a B2B service provider. And that has the need, because she has been alone for a lot of years. She's been doing a lot of the things on her own. She does have a team that is serving her, obviously, but she doesn't get to pour out her heart of all the things that she's dealing with in her mind. And she doesn't have a lot of people around her that get her. So that's the ideal client. That's the avatar that we point all of our marketing to. That's all the messaging is pointed. when I'm talking to people, that is who I'm describing, that is who I'm looking for. And that is really important, that when you're thinking about your focus, that it's not just like, my focus is not women running 6 and 7 figure businesses.
Right.
My focus is that avatar.
Yep.
And that is the concept in marketing and in sales that I think is important for everyone to be aware of.
So let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room. You know, it's really hard to keep our eyes and ears off of what's going on in the world. You know, what's first, what was it, 2.5 years ago, the world really struggled with coronavirus, and it impacted and devastated people in a lot of ways, in their businesses and their finances and their health and their family lineage. I can go on and on. There were a lot of people that were devastated. We're just coming to the other side of this. And now, you know, we get hit with inflation and supply chain and struggling to find employees. And then just as we start navigating those waters, now what's happening in Europe with Ukraine and Russia, and you know, media is going to glorify a lot of things, and there's a lot of fear going on right now about what's going to happen, what could happen. And, you know, this is really paralyzing a lot of people. What's your advice as to how someone that is struggling with all of this and with what's going on and has gone on, how do they stay motivated?
This is interesting because I was literally talking with my content writer about this yesterday. It's been a challenge for me because I am someone who is an empath. Mm-hmm. I am someone who is a heart-centered, heart intuitive. So everything for me comes through my heart space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when something like what's going on in Ukraine hits, it impacts me greatly. And so in the past, I have chosen to really basically tune out the news a vast majority of the time, because it's easier on me and I can continue to move toward my mission. What I'm realizing at this present moment in time is that I'm in a transition phase. I'm in a transformation phase between that old practice of myself and the new practice of a leader of a multinational organization, which is I can no longer ignore what's going on. And I get to, and I choose to build up my own tools and do my own work so that I can build up my resilience and be a leader who is facing what's going on in the world and able to talk about it, and also continue to deal with whatever my shadows are, whatever is going on for me in my own personal world, and whatever is going on in my community, because there are people on all sides of the spectrum within my community as well. So this is very much up for me right now. I'm in that liminal space, in that change space of using the tools, acquiring more tools. I'm a huge believer in NLP, so go Stacey. I'm a huge believer in NLP, and I use the tools, and I find that in times like this, we get to choose to dig deeper and use more of those tools, or acquire more of those tools, and become more and more self-aware, because it's in that journey through self-awareness that we're able to lead our communities better.
Yeah, I love that advice. And I'd like to add a little bit to that. The position that we're in, it doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur, it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, a corporate employee, if you're an investor or a business owner, it doesn't matter in what quadrant you fall on.
Yep.
Reality is we are incapable of controlling what happens in the environment.
Yep.
We are capable of how we choose to respond and or react to the environment. Yep. Now, reaction is extremely emotional, and a lot of mistakes happen when emotion clouds our vision and our ability to process and think. So we allow ourselves and choose to step back and respond to the environment. And the way to do that is everything starts with us. You know, how you speak to yourself is how you speak to others, and how you speak to others is how you speak with yourself. And if you don't love yourself, how can you ever be capable of loving anyone else?
Right.
And all of this impacts your ability to transact, your ability to show up as a human, your ability to be successful, serve your avatar, make the money that you dream of, desire, and know you deserve. It all starts, there is a human element in business. And that is not only your prospective client, it's you. And there is so much judgment, hatred in the world that these up and coming leaders really get to step up and be the voice that the world deserves to have. You know, we may not collectively have one person change the world. However, if one person can positively impact one other person and we create that ripple effect, then the world will change. Right now, we have Elon Musk challenging Putin to a duel, right? And you know, whoever wins then can determine what happens with Ukraine. Well, that's like the damsel in distress. What if Ukraine doesn't want either one of them to determine that, right? We need to be thought leaders. We need to be impact providers. You know, be the leader in the world that you want to see, hear, and have. And my rule of thumb is always leave the person, the space, and the place better than what you found them. And if you can do that, and if you can impact someone who's willing to pay it forward and impact someone, the world will change.
Yeah.
And
I think it's in being in community. For me, it's about creating the space and allowing the space for everyone to share their thoughts and their feelings and their emotions as they're going through all of this.
Yeah.
Because it's having an immense impact on business owners who've been struggling. And I know business owners better than others, right? So like you said, it doesn't matter who you are, but I just know the psyche of a business owner because that's me. We've been impacted on this roller coaster ride for the last several years. And I think that ability to stay focused and to stay motivated comes from, in my opinion, the ability to have a community around me that I can talk to about this stuff, and that there's the inner circle that I can really dive deep into with it. But then there's the, you know, our connection calls that we create that go deeper into some of the world's biggest topics, because we need that space to contemplate these things. And we need that time to really talk about them, where we don't otherwise get it with people who get our own situations, get what we're dealing with, compounding all of the effects of what's happening in the world. On top of that, running a business, leading a team, leading a company, continuing to move toward our vision when we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But the truth is, we never know what's going to happen.
No, we don't. And reality is we also determine and choose what's going to happen tomorrow by the actions that we did yesterday and today. And that's, and I mean, that's the whole butterfly concept, right? The whole butterfly effect. And I want to go back, because I did go down a rabbit hole, and I want to go back to that question. How does someone who has struggled like this for several years stay motivated? And the answer in a nutshell is just what Meghann had said. It's community. You know, if you surround yourself with people who are moving forward and looking for solutions and opportunities and how to work with each other and how to support each other, and they are a community of impact makers, then that's the frame of mind you'll stay in. If you are surrounding yourself with people who are fear-based because of the news, watching the news, consumed by the news, complaining about what's going on, complaining about the economy, complaining about the gas prices, then that's the state that you're going to stay in. So really double check what's going on around you. What are you seeing, hearing, listening to, thinking, and feeling? Because reality is shift is going to happen. Reality is shift is going to hit the fan. Just determines whether or not you want to be downwind or not.
Yeah. And the other component to being surrounded by is to participate in and participate with.
Amen.
We can be a part of a community and do nothing, or we can be a part of a community and participate. And that, I think a lot of times when women have a hard time connecting, it's because they're not participating. It's because they're not willing to jump into the deep end. It's because they're not willing to have the conversations and let people in. And we have to recognize that the vulnerability and our ability to share what it is that's going on within us from an aligned space, right? So not from a space of like fresh anger or fresh hurt, because it's difficult to get anywhere with newer people in community if you're coming from that space. But if you're doing the inner work to get aligned and to get to a space where you can have conscious, connected conversations, then it's amazing what will happen when you are being resourced from the people in your community. Yeah. They're able to see things from such different lenses and such different perspectives that you wouldn't have thought of, especially in these times of these more chaotic times.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just remember, when you're surrounded by a community that supports you as your cheerleader, and you support them and you're their cheerleader, if you get dirty, they're going to help pick you up and clean you off. Right. Sure.
As long as you've done the same for them.
Absolutely.
That's the other part. Like we have to think about serving others. And when it's time to ask for help from others, we have to ask ourselves first, have I been helpful? Yep. Have I been generous? Have I been a contribution? Whereas if we're always just wanting from the other people, and we don't stop to look in the mirror and say, have I done the work too? And, that's one side of the coin that I see. And then the other side with women that I see is women who aren't willing to ask for help because they haven't done that work yet to really get clear with, we are only one person and we do need a team. And a lot of times that team isn't just the direct people that we pay, it's the people who are in our communities. Yeah. So understand how to ask for help, combined with the clarity that we already spoke about. If you're clear as to what your needs are and what would be a contribution to you, when I ask Stacey, who would be the best connection for you in the world to have in your business right now? And she is able to say, I'm looking to get connected to Elon Musk, just to throw a name out there, since we've used
before he duels.
Right, before the duel. Exactly. Maybe 5 years ago, Elon Musk. Then that makes it easy for me to say, okay, I'm going to look in my community. Who has an in with Elon Musk? Versus if I say, Stacey, who are you looking to be connected to, or who would help you in your endeavors? And you said, I don't really know anyone. Like, that doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. If you can't describe them, we can't find them. That's the rule of thumb. Yep. So Meghann, welcome to the signature question of the show. And that is, what does selling without selling mean to you?
Building rapport and relationship is where everything happens. And that's where the sale happens too. If you are building relationship and rapport and you're meeting the needs, wants, and desires of your target audience, of your avatar, selling becomes the natural transaction that results from building that relationship, building that rapport.
I love that. I love that.
If you have the service or the offering that person needs, wants, and desires. You're trying to fit a round peg in a square hole. That's not sales, my friend.
So Meghann, welcome to the signature question of the show. And see, I believe that success leaves clues. I like to ask questions to our guest experts so that our listeners can extract information and go, you know what, I really like that and want to apply it to my life. So my question to you, I may have two. The main question is, what does your morning ritual look like?
I get up and do meditation first. It's the first thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then I either work out first or eat first, depending on my husband's workout regimen as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we work out together. And then I do journaling and visualization. And then I get ready for the day and I have the rest of my day ahead of me.
I love
It all
that.
starts at about 5 a.m.
Yep. Early bird always gets the worm, 5 a.m. club.
Right.
So my second question to you is, what is your favorite word and why?
I don't know that I have one favorite word of my life, but right now the word is resilience that
Nice.
keeps popping up and keeps just being a teacher for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that resilience is just, it's very similar to success. It's very specific to each individual,
Mm-hmm.
what resilience looks like,
Mm-hmm.
because it can border on the line of stupidity if we go too far, resilient to a fault. And we can try things that are way too far out of our comfort zone or way too far out of our zone of genius.
Mm-hmm.
But then we can also hide behind resilience and say, well, I'm just not strong enough to XYZ, or I'm just not capable of. So I think it's a word that requires a journey, which is why I like it.
I absolutely love that. And I have to tell you, I have a new word every year. And this year it's been intentional, influential momentum, because intention is absolutely necessary. It's got to be clear and specific. Influence is very, very important to me. And without momentum, you really can never make the impact that you need or want, right? And my word changes every year. And I meditate right around New Year's Eve and get clear, and I journal and I get clarity on what next year's focus is going to be. And that's what dictates where we go. So
that's actually for me is spaciousness this year. So it's interesting how resilience is a very big component of that.
I love that. I love that. So Meghann, I really appreciate you being on the show today. I know what your schedules look like, and I truly value and appreciate our time together.
Me too. Thank you so much. This has been extremely amazing.
Absolutely. If our listeners want to find you, reach out to you, connect with you, how can they do that?
Yes, the best way, if you are a woman who runs or leads her own growing 6 or 7 figure business, and your curiosity has been piqued by our conversation today, we have awesome virtual roundtable events twice a month. And so I invite you to go to www.thedames.co/roundtable and check out when the next one is and see if you'd like to book yourself a seat there. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely. I can testify that it was a lot of fun when I had done it with you. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I love our time together, and I look forward to many, many more. And for our listeners, your success is important to me. And it's also important to me to make sure that these episodes are valuable to you and for you. I'd love for you to do 3 things right now. First, I'd love for you to head over to Instagram and follow us at Pivot Point Advantage. That's head over to Instagram, follow us at Pivot Point Advantage. Second, I'd love for you to jump over to Facebook now, join our Sell Without Selling community. That's head over to Facebook, join our Sell Without Selling community. Last and definitely not least, I'd love to chat with you and get feedback on the episodes to find out any topics that you're interested in to help make this show more powerful and helpful to you achieving the success that you've always dreamed of, desired, and know you deserve. Head over to pivotpointadvantage.com/talk to Stacey. That's pivotpointadvantage.com/talk to Stacey. Let's get a 15-minute call on the calendar. And always remember this. Choice is a powerful thing, and suffering is always optional. Get out of your way so you can get on your way, so you can finally have your way. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Whether it's mastering your mindset, communication, or success, we have more ways to keep you on your journey to greatness. Be sure to visit us at pivotpointadvantage.com for exclusive online training programs, success-specific courses, and more ways to connect to Stacey directly to help you achieve the financial success you've always desired, dreamed, and deserved. That's all available on pivotpointadvantage.com.